Today is November 16th, and I'm calling to order the council meeting. Please stand and pledge the flag, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Ms. Hawks, would you call the roll, please?
Ms. Barnard? Ms. Grandillo? Here. Mr. Hattridge?
Here.
Mr. Horvath? Mr. Kovach?
Here.
Mr. Cudley?
Here.
Ms. McDougal? Present. Mr. Vaca?
Present.
Mr. Wolf?
Here.
Okay, are there any reconsiderations of prior actions? Okay, I need a motion to approve the minutes of the October 26th meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call vote, please. Ms. Hawks?
Mr. Vaca?
Yes.
Ms. Grandillo?
Yes.
Mr. Hattridge?
Yes.
Mr. Kovach?
Yes.
Mr. Cudley?
Yes.
Ms. McDougal?
Yes.
Mr. Wolf?
Yes.
We have a public hearing this evening. Ordinance 2015-125 from Planning. An ordinance amending section 1155.07 dwelling floor area of Aurora's codified ordinances regarding minimum and maximum floor area restrictions for residential and commercial buildings. Is there anyone like to speak on that tonight? Mr. Mazzaro?
Go back to members of the council. My name is George Mazzaro, 186 Eldridge. Assuming that you understood my comments at the previous meetings regarding this, I'm still having a very serious problem about why we coming up with 50,000 square feet. And people responded that they were trying to preserve the character of the city. There's no detail what 50,000 square feet represent. Does it mean 10,000, 5 stories high? Does it mean 20 foot wide, 1,000 feet long? There's nothing deciding what it's going to be. And I think what you're doing, you're not putting the location of what you want for 50,000 square feet. It troubles me that we come up all of a sudden, say 50,000. Why not 100,000? Are we scared of a big building? I think you're scared of what's going to happen over in the Ward 1 area if they decide to move it on our side instead of on the Bainbridge side. But that's part of business. And I just have a serious problem when this ordinance calls for residential and commercial, and really all you're doing, as far as I know, is just changing the commercial to C1 and C2 to 50,000 square feet. I assume you know what areas you're talking about. I assume you read the rest of your rules and regulations. I'm talking about council as well as administration. Because I think what you're doing, you're outlawing people who want to come in this community and present to you maybe a 75,000 square feet building on 2 floors or 1 floor. There's a lot of things that can be done, but you're not detailing it, and it should not be in your hands whether or not there should be a 50,000 square foot building or 75,000 square foot building. I'll give you a good example. If you have 100 acres, I own 100 acres. How many buildings can I put on it? Did anybody tell you that? I don't think so. The fact is, if I make a 50,000 square feet building, how many can I put on that 100 acres? And how many stories are supposed to be? I'm worried about the character of the community as well as everybody. I think what we need to do is prioritize what we're trying to talk about. Prioritize the fact that we want to go out and solicit people to fill in the years. I've been here for 24 years now, so I assume a lot of the acreage is still there and hasn't moved at all. Even on the agenda on Wednesday evening, you're trying to, wetlands, you're trying to reduce the size of the lot. And that's scaring me. That's been on the agenda now for the last 12, 15 years. Of course, we're going to go ahead and approve that, let it go, and next thing you know, we'll build these buildings, we're going to have all this water problems. But again, there we're going back to the fact is, why does this 50,000 square feet? Did anybody talk to the chamber about this? Is there any written documentation on this? Of course not. Why would you do that? That'd be the right thing to do. But it scares me when you go ahead and you proceed in these manners. Of course, tonight you're going to get rid of all your committees, so you can't say you can't refer them to the committee anymore. But I guarantee if this got to the committee before it got to council, you may have a different end than you have right now. And that's the way it's supposed to operate. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else? Okay. Mayor, do you want to? Go ahead.
Thank you very much, Mr. President, members of council. As I have discussed with you previously, working with the Planning, Zoning, Building Director, the Law Director, Planning Commission, and its chair, Councilwoman Grandillo, we have slowly over the last almost 2 years looked at what our community should be going forward, what buildings and development may be appropriate for our community going forward. And I have asked the Planning, Zoning, Building Director to review our zoning code with those concerns in mind. As that has been done, a lot of that work, a lot of the detail work was done with respect to the Geauga Lake area. When you passed the the design standards earlier in the year, the Planning, Zoning, Building Department had really scrutinized what was being done in many other communities and what would be appropriate for the Geauga Lake area. And I think that heightened our awareness of what we might want in other parts of town. So that, for instance, in the Geauga Lake area, because of those design standards, moving that big box store from Bainbridge to Geauga Lake to Aurora would not be possible. That doesn't mean commercial activity is prohibited in the Geauga Lake area, but how that commercial activity is housed and what it looks like would be controlled by the design standards, and you on council who are in a position because of our change in the code to review what goes into Geauga Lake. Similarly, we're concerned about some of the other provisions in the code, and as Ms. Januska is reviewing the entire zoning code with the law director, as things are brought to our attention that are of particular concern, we're bringing them to you before we do the complete overhaul. Yes, there are other parts of the code that provide what can go where. There are zoning classifications across the city. Those zoning classifications have uses that are specified, building size that is specified, and everything else. And what we determined during this, as this review is progressing, we do not want a 100,000 square foot building in the center of town in our commercial area. We do not. Does that mean it's completely impossible? No, because applicants for such an endeavor can obtain a variance for it. So it is still possible, but by this provision, and it's not 50,000 feet per floor. It is 50,000 feet overall, and there are height elevations already, height limitations in our zoning code as well. So I think this is a very important one to address, and that is also why we asked you during the pendency of your consideration that you also support a moratorium to protect Aurora from that kind of development as you're considering this change. Thank you.
Is there anyone else? We're going to move on to the mayor's report. Mayor?
Thank you very much, Mr. President, members of council. I have entered into an agreement with CT Consultants for $6,500 to provide an independent opinion on the potential cost of improvements to Aurora Lake Road, including the public portion, the private portion, and a total for both. Funding for this engineering work will come from the Stormwater Fund because we have some funds remaining after our stormwater work this year. You will recall that we had borings done in the road earlier this year to evaluate the base under the road. And this cost estimate will provide us with the information we need to decide on future options as we continue our discussions with Mr. Constantino. I believe this is important for our residents, our school buses, and our safety forces. In addition, I am happy to tell you that Aurora Lake Road was paved today. Thank you to you for supporting that. There will be a ribbon cutting ceremony to celebrate the new sidewalk on State Route 82 this Wednesday, November 18th at 3 p.m. I really hope that you can all be there, including members of the public who might be watching this. Please plan to meet in front of Howard Hanna. In case of inclement weather, the event will move inside to the community room, although I think we can all tolerate a little bit of rain out there to cut this ribbon. And by the way, just so you know, we thought about going to different places on that sidewalk, and we wanted to make sure there was sufficient parking wherever we went, and also that there was a place to retreat to in the event of bad weather, and Howard Hanna was the most appropriate spot in that regard, but we're excited about the entire sidewalk. We have expanded the holiday program this year, which will be held on Saturday, December 5th. A holiday show is scheduled from 4 p.m. to 5 p.m. in the theater to be presented by the Aurora Community Theater, the Aurora School of Music, and unaccompanied minors from the Aurora High School. Then following the show, the outdoor tree lighting ceremony will begin at 5 p.m. at Bicentennial Park and will feature the Girl Scouts of Aurora, AC Dance Company, the Aurora School of Music, and Santa and me lighting the tree. Yes, Santa will be coming. And afterwards, and this is perhaps the best part of the expansion of the program, Santa will be available to meet with children inside at the library gallery until about 7 p.m. and refreshments will be provided. So we hope to see you all there. I want to congratulate those members of council who were reelected 2 weeks ago. I look forward to our continuing work together in Aurora because I really feel like you have been great collaborators to make some exciting things happen in our town. I also want to thank all who ran and all who voted because citizen participation is critical to the success of a democratic society. Finally, since our last meeting, I've met with members of the Library Trust regarding potential improvements they want to make to the library property. Chatham Estates Homeowners Association, representatives from East Homestead, and our engineer Stantec to discuss the engineering evaluation there. Aurora High School senior Sam I. Marino, who delivered patriotic remarks on my behalf on Veterans Day at Veterans Memorial Park, and also a few citizen representatives from various boards. I had lunch with Chamber Director Laura Holman because I value our relationship with the Chamber and do view that we work in concert in many respects to support the business and commercial community of Aurora. And I facilitated an Economic Development Board meeting and participated in 2 Veterans Day ceremonies. And with that, I would like to wish you all a very, very safe and happy Thanksgiving. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Mr. Cudley.
Thank you, Mr. Kovach. Also, as part of that tree lighting and holiday program, the Aurora Historical Society Museum is going to be open too during that period of time. So
Is the
Just
Dean
wanted to-
House?
you could peek in the windows. Okay, thank you.
Is that donuts in the deed house?
Yeah.
Okay, we're going to move on to the law director's report.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, you have my law director's report. I'd like to make 2 comments. First, with regard to a police longevity grievance that has been going on. I'm happy to announce that the arbitrator ruled in favor of the city and adopted the city's position on that particular grievance, so we consider that matter resolved. In addition to that, my council's aware that the Planning Commission, with regard to the AVR Management LLC, the Planning Commission on November 10th, before November 10th, on November 10th, the applicant, AVR Management, filed a notice to appeal the Planning Commission's decision that was rendered with regard to the Family Fun Center. The record is being created at this point. The applicants have filed their notice of appeal timely, and once that record is prepared, it'll be transmitted to the council office and distributed to all members of council. We have selected December 7th tentatively as the date where that appeal will be heard at a special meeting of Aurora City Council, depending on the availability of the applicants, but I believe it'll be December 7th. Council will be asked to act in their quasi-judicial capacity to review the actions and the decisions of the Planning Commission to determine whether or not the appeal should be granted. No new evidence will be permitted or presented at the hearing, and the appeal should be decided that evening by council. And I'll have further direction from council prior to that hearing. As the record comes in, we'll be reaching out to you to determine whether or not you would like a paper copy of that record or whether you would like it submitted to you electronically for your review. And the reason I bring that up is that it'll be voluminous with a transcript and many documents for your review. Okay? Any questions, please let me know.
All right, any questions for the law director? Okay, we're going to move on to the president's report. Need a motion to amend the agenda by adding ordinances 2015-415 through 2015-149. Oh, we have a mistake. Okay. Sorry about that.
I'll make the move.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. And the second motion, to add to the schedule, the organizational meeting for January 4th, 2016 at 7 p.m.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. We have citizens' comments. Anyone wanting to comment on the legislation this evening? Please step to the microphone.
Good evening, Deb Conti, 234 South Chillicothe Road. Good evening, council. I'm looking at ordinance 2015-144. I made comments a month ago. I apologize, I missed the meeting in between, but Council of Whole, which is always in front of council, in that format, they do not have 2 options that are here at council, which I really feel are important, which is citizens' comments on legislation, and also then citizens' comments in general on anything. And that's right. Right now I have concerns about these changes in the ordinances because I would like to see those two opportunities, legislation as well as anything in general, put into, at least on legislation, put into the COW format, because we are changing and, from my understanding, eliminating the standing committees. The second thing is I was here, as I said, a month ago, and at that time, they brought forward, I believe it was 5, as we are tonight, new ordinances that are not available beforehand. And I'll be honest, I like to be able to review, process, and ask questions, whether it's of the mayor, of anyone that can help me out before these legislations, to make sure I understand them completely, so I can ask an intelligent question here at council at that time. So a month ago, 5 came forward, and I understand emergencies are there, but 4 went through that night. So it's very hard to preview the information as a citizen. And that's my question here, is as a citizen having a little bit more, because council does a great job as well as the mayor and are very open. But when it comes directly from the COW to this meeting, it's very hard to have that process time. Thank you.
Anyone else? Mr. Mazzaro?
Go back, members of council. My name is Jordan Mazzaro, 186 Eldridge. On 125, the dwelling floor area, if I recall correctly, council gave up the right to approve any of these stuff coming through planning commission. I think it was 268 ordinance. So I guess it really, whichever you hear, doesn't really make that much difference, because you're not going to see most of the stuff that goes through anyway. So one of the things we talk about the character of the community, and I said it before, maybe we should take care of our fire hydrants throughout the community. I keep saying that, but nothing's done. We supposed to spend $15,000 a year whether it was done. Nobody reports to you whether it's done. And also the right-of-ways are in very bad shape. Needs to be improved and bring a little eye care to it. On 136, a reference to what the state has done, but it doesn't tell you what they have done to change the current law regarding the income tax. I assume someone's going to tell you exactly what changes are being made in the form of test here too. But nobody else, you used to have, a long time ago, you used to be able to yellow out the areas that were changed or going to be removed with orange, but who really cares? 144, I appreciate this contact coming here. I can understand these committees had not been used or used. Years ago, they used to be used on a regular basis. We used to tour this community on a regular basis. We went through all the various different buildings on a regular basis. But who really cares? It's the character of the city we got to worry about. Don't worry about the right or wrong. What's going to have to be repaired, what's going to have to be done. But you know, I know Mr. Vodka and I used to have a lot of fun when he was the chairman, and I was out there asking a lot of questions regarding the city. And you know what? He was able to answer them all. And that's the important part of it. We got a lot of things done together. But today, who really cares? You know, the worst thing this council has ever done was come up with the COW meeting. The COW meeting tells you that you brought stuff here, you put it on the agenda, it says from COW, and really nobody knows where it came from. Years ago, you knew exactly where it came from. What department, what council person, what mayor, it's always there. And I understand getting rid of the committees. Again, public record doesn't reflect some of the things that need to be reflected because of your COW meeting. I don't know, you know, why these meetings not. I'll give you a good example. You spend over $30 million a year, and you pass the appropriations. You used to have a finance committee that approved and had it, and we talked about it, about the whole appropriation. We don't do that anymore. We afraid of it? Do people know we spend over $30 million? But who really cares? slowly but surely, last but not least, slowly but surely, you have removed the citizens' input, which should always be allowed. Years ago, way back when, at the end of the meeting, you only allow 2 minutes. It used to be 5 minutes. So I wonder what you're going to do with it, do away with that. Who knows?
Thank you. Anyone else? We're going to move on to council remarks. Ms. McDougal, I'm sorry.
Thank you, President. On 215-144, I too am concerned that we've moved away from citizens' input in our community. I did not vote on the cow, and it's a shame that we have less input from our citizens. I would like to say that it is my intent when we do some changes to the council rules to put a segment into council rules that allows for citizen comment. So I intend to put forth that legislation at the beginning of the year. So thank you for your input and your concern, and I do hear you and I recognize your concern.
Mr. Vaca.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. From 137 to 143. These are going to go to second reading, am I correct? I believe so. Well, the appointments is what I'm asking for. The appointees,
Yes.
why can't we just get them out of the way tonight? No, we have to wait. Okay. I just wondered, that's all. We have time? Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
Mr. Wolf.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President. With respect to 2015-125, Mr. Mazzaro had asked if we knew what was being limited, and it's the maximum footprint per retail/commercial space is 50,000 square feet. So no individual retail space or commercial space. In other words, contiguous, under one roof in one space. It doesn't mean that a large complex or a large set of retail properties couldn't be developed that would exceed 50,000 square feet, but it's maximum footprint per retail/commercial space. So no single retail space could be under 50, unless I'm reading that wrong. No. So that's, with respect to 125, that's the answer for the 50,000.
Mr. Cudley.
Right, thank you, Mr. Kovach. In regards to ordinance 2015-144, with council's restructuring of the committee system and doing away with the standing committees, you understand that 3 years ago, when we had the standing committees in operation, each of those standing committees had 4 council members on it and then some citizens rep. The problem that we had indicated over the years, what frustrated me, was that if I was not on one of those standing committees, most of the discussion that took place, all of the discussion that took place was at that committee. They would make a recommendation. You would have 4 councilmen making a recommendation that would come to council as a whole. Those 4 council people were entitled to what I would say privileged information, because the other 5 members were not part of that discussion, not part of all of that information gathering, not part of all the information that was provided by the administration. And therefore, it was difficult for us, not on one of those standing committees, to really know what we were voting on, especially if something was suspended and voted on that night. Doing away with those standing committees and going over to the COW procedure that we have now, we actually have 9 members of council on Finance Committee, because we're all discussing financial matters at the same time. We're all on Safety, Service, and Utilities, because we are talking about those things as 9 members of council. The same thing with the Recreation and all our other standing committees. So council's understanding of the legislation that we vote on has been much more improved by it. I know the Buildings and Grounds Committee evolved into something greater than what it was intended to be. It was initially designed to, okay, we have all these buildings, what are we going to do with them? Are we going to keep them or are we going to tear them down? It evolved into the committee inspecting all the buildings if there was a crack in the wall, if there was a doorknob missing, and whatever the case might be, and got to micromanage what the administration should be doing. That's not our role as council people to go around inspecting buildings saying, this needs to be painted, this, you know, this window's dirty, we need to wash it, you know, all this other kind of stuff. That's not our role as council people. So over the years, over the 3 years that we've had this in effect, we have become a much better council, much better informed, and able to understand exactly what it is that we are voting on. We have not, over the 3 years, eliminated citizens' input because citizens still participate. We have 11 different boards and commissions in this city, and I believe, if I remember correctly, there was 47 or 49 citizens that serve on those boards and commissions right now. So we're not eliminating anything from our agenda as far as that is concerned. Citizens still have the opportunity to come to a COW meeting, listen to our workshop, because legislation has not yet been created. It doesn't get created until after we pass it on to the law department to create the legislation. So citizens then have an opportunity to speak tonight what happened during tonight's COW meeting at the end of our council agenda under citizens' comments generally. So they are provided an opportunity to speak. We have not taken anything away from citizens that they have not had over the last 3 years. So with that in mind, I think, you know, ordinance 2015-144 is absolutely the right thing for council to do. Why continue to put us through an organizational meeting in which we haggle over who's going to be on what committee that doesn't meet? Who's going to be chairperson of a committee that doesn't meet? It just makes sense to better structure our operation under the new procedure that's being proposed. So thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Grandello.
Thank you. With regard to 215-125, this did come before Planning Commission. As the mayor said, we're finding holes in our zoning code. I can tell you every member of planning was shocked that there was nothing in the C1, C2 district stating what kind of building could go in there. We have all kind of, you know, Western Reserve look. We have things limiting everywhere, but C1, C2 was wide open as far as how big a building could be. Marks is 49,000 feet. Heinen's is 48,000 feet, to give you an idea of what 50,000 feet looks like. So I don't believe it would be harming anyone to live up to that 50,000 square foot footprint. As was mentioned, if somebody came in and they had 65,000 square feet, planning could look at it, and if it deemed to fit in the center of our community, we can always give a variance. But you know, these are the kind of things that, as you go through your zoning code, you realize we were open to a disaster. Thank goodness it hadn't happened, but you know, we have it for housing, we have it for everything. So I think this is a very good addition to this code.
Thank you. Mr. Baca.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. 144. I'm going to give you a little bit of history lesson here. I don't see anybody older that can remember back in the late 70s when this city council met here. Actually, they met upstairs. And they had what they call a pre-council meeting. It was a meeting that did exactly what the COW is doing right now. And then 2 weeks later, they have the council meeting. I used to call it the pre-game warm-ups. So the committee of the whole, when it first started out, I was kind of hesitant. But as it progressed, it became a rather well-oiled machine. Mr. Cuddley's right. 9 people knew what was going on instead of 4. And we didn't have to go to 3 readings per se, or even, well, you should go 3 readings. That goes without saying. However, the information was all brought out at one time, and everybody knew, unless if you're absent, like Mr. George Corvette is right now. But I don't think that the system is bad. I think it's good, considering what we went through back in the 70s. And I look forward to keeping it the way it is. Having citizens' input coming in on this meeting doesn't make any sense either, because it's not even legislation yet. We're in the midst of putting this thing together. We don't even know what half of it's all about until such time as we discuss it. So therefore, putting citizens' information or input at a COW meeting does not make any sense, as far as I'm concerned. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm just going to make a comment here. I agree with Mr. Vaca and Mr. Cudley. I think that the COW meetings, we do have more input with each other than we did at the various special meetings. And I think it's been working very well. I think I know it will continue to work very well for us. Thank you. We're going to move on to legislation. Ordinance 2015-107 from the Committee of the Whole. An ordinance authorizing the mayor to enter into a community reinvestment area CRA agreement with ABR Management LLC for a 75% 15-year abatement of real property taxes in accordance with the provisions of the city's community reinvestment area known as CRA2, adopted by ordinance 2004-186, amended by ordinance 2011-088, and declaring an emergency in order for the property owner to obtain financing and begin construction as soon as possible. This is on third reading, and I'm going to need a motion to postpone.
So moved.
Second.
Ms. Hawks, can you call the roll, please?
Mr. Vaca?
Yes.
Ms. Grandilla?
Yes.
Mr. Hafford?
Yes.
Mr. Kovak?
Yes.
Mr. Cudley?
Yes.
Ms. McDougal?
Yes.
Mr. Wolf?
Yes.
Ordinance 2015-122 from the Committee of the Whole. An ordinance selecting the bid of and awarding a contract to Rudzik Excavating, Inc. for the 2015 Shawnee Trail Water Main Replacement Project as the best responsive and responsible bidder, rejecting all other bids, authorizing the mayor to enter into a contract with Rudzik Excavating, Inc. in the amount of $1,280,463.63, taking the necessary funds from the Water Fund number 70 and the City Operations Fund number 52, and declaring an emergency. This is on third reading, and need a motion to adopt.
Second.
Ms. Hawks, can you call the roll, please?
Ms. McDougal?
Yes.
Ms. Grandilla? Yes. Mr. Hafford?
Yes.
Mr. Kovak?
Yes.
Mr. Cudley?
Yes.
Mr. Vaca? Mr. Wolf?
Yes.
Ordinance 2015-125 from Planning, an ordinance amending section 1155.07, dwelling floor area of Aurora's codified ordinances regarding minimum and maximum floor area restrictions for residential and commercial buildings. It's on third reading. I need a motion to,
Suspend. So moved to suspend.
let me finish here. Motion to suspend council's ruling barring action being taken on the same night as the public hearing. Need that
So
motion?
moved.
Second.
Need you to have a roll call. Okay, voice vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Second.
Call the roll, please.
Ms. McDougal?
Yes.
Mr. Hafford?
Yes.
Mr. Kovak?
Yes.
Mr. Cudley?
Yes.
Mr. Vaca? Mr. Wolf?
Yes.
Ms. Grandilla? Yes.
Mr. Kovach, I had wanted to make a comment on that, but you already voted on it, so.
You can make it at the end.
Okay.
If that's okay.
Yeah.
Sorry. I missed you. Ordinance 2015-130 from Committee of the Whole. An ordinance appropriating $20,000 from the general fund number 01 to reflect a $20,000 payment received from Dries Homes for the planting of trees in Yorkshire Estates. It's on second reading. That'll go to third reading. Ordinance 2015-135 from the Committee of the Whole. An ordinance enacting a new chapter 353 Parking Violations Bureau of the Codified Ordinances of the City of Aurora and declaring an emergency to have the Bureau effective January 1st, 2016. This is on first reading, will go on to second reading. Ordinance 2015-136 from the Committee of the Whole. An ordinance enacting a new Chapter 188, City of Aurora Income Tax of the codified ordinances, substantially in the form attached hereto of the City of Aurora, and declaring an emergency as a chapter must be in place by January 1st, 2016 to be in compliance with state law. It's on first reading. We'll go to second reading. Resolution 2015-137 from Mayor Horvat Cudley. A resolution confirming the mayor's reappointment of Ms. Kim Pease to Aurora's Tree Commission for the term ending December 31st, 2019, declaring an emergency as the current term expires December 31st, 2015, and council desires to confirm this reappointment at the earliest possible opportunity to ensure the continuity of the Tree Commission in accordance with Chapter 955 of the codified ordinances of the City of Aurora. This is on first reading. We'll go on to second reading. Resolution 2015-138 from Mayor Horvat Cudley. A resolution confirming the mayor's reappointment of Ms. Martha Sickinger to Aurora's Tree Commission for the term ending December 31st, 2019, declaring an emergency as the current term expires December 31st, 2015, and council desires to confirm this reappointment at the earliest possible opportunity to ensure the continuity of the Tree Commission in accordance with Chapter 955 of the codified ordinances of the City of Aurora. This is on first reading. We'll go on to second reading. Resolution 2015-139 from Mayor Horvat Cudley. A resolution confirming the mayor's reappointment of Mr. Bob Swaney to Aurora's Tree Commission for the term ending December 31st, 2019, and declaring an emergency as the current term expires December 31st, 2015, and council desires to confirm this reappointment at the earliest possible opportunity to ensure the continuity of the Tree Commission in accordance with Chapter 955, the codified ordinances of the City of Aurora. So on first reading, we'll go on to second reading. Resolution 2015-140 from Mayor Horvat Cudley. A resolution confirming the mayor's reappointment of Mr. Anthony Graham to Aurora's Board of Zoning Appeals for the term ending December 31st, 2019, and declaring an emergency as the current term expires December 31st, 2015. And council desires to approve this appointment at the earliest possible opportunity to ensure continuity of the Board of Zoning Appeals in accordance with Chapter 1137, the codified ordinances of the City of Aurora. This is on first reading. We'll go on to second reading. Resolution 2015-141 from Mayor Horvat Cudley. A resolution confirming the mayor's reappointment of Mr. Dennis Mervis to membership on Aurora's Earned Income Tax Board of Review, replacing Mr. Dexter Theed for the term ending December 31st, 2016, and declaring an emergency as council desires to confirm this appointment at the earliest possible opportunity to ensure the continuity of the Earned Income Tax Board of Review in accordance with Chapter 187 of the codified ordinances of the City of Aurora. This is on first reading. We need a motion. The administration has asked for suspension.
Second.
Anyone opposed? Okay, so we're going to go to a roll call vote, please. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Move for adoption.
Second.
Ms. Hawks, can you call the roll, please? Nope. Anyone? Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Vaca?
Yes.
Ms. Grandillo?
Yes.
Mr. Hedrick?
Yes.
Mr. Kovach?
Yes.
Mr. Cudley?
Yes.
Ms. McDougal?
Yes.
Mr. Wolf?
Yes.
Resolution 2015-142, Mayor Horvat Cudley. A resolution confirming the mayor's reappointment of Mr. David Wong to Aurora's Audit Committee for the term ending December 31st, 2018, and declaring an emergency as the current term expires December 31st, 2015, and council desires to confirm this reappointment at the earliest possible opportunity to ensure the continuity of the audit committee in accordance with Chapter 125 of the codified ordinances of the City of Aurora. This is on first reading. We'll go on to second reading. Resolution 2015-143 from Mayor Horvat and Cudley. A resolution confirming the mayor's reappointment of Mr. Frank Vitale to Aurora's Audit Committee for the term ending December 31st, 2017, declaring an emergency as the current term expires December 31st, 2015, and council desires to confirm this reappointment at the earliest possible opportunity to ensure the continuity of the Audit Committee in accordance with Chapter 125 of the codified ordinances of the City of Aurora. This is on first reading. We'll go on to second reading. Ordinance 2015-144 from the Committee of the Whole. An ordinance amending multiple sections of Chapter 121 Council Rules of Aurora's codified ordinances to reflect the elimination of the standing committees of City Council and declaring an emergency in order for the new rules to be in place prior to the 2016 organizational meeting. This is on first reading. We'll go on to second reading. Ordinance 2015-145 from the Committee of the Whole. An ordinance accepting the quotation of and authorizing the mayor to enter into a contract with Rowland Specialty Vehicles and Products in the amount of $53,462.70, which is through the state term pricing contract for the purchase of 3 Stryker medical cots for the use by the fire department, taking $50,573 from the Fire Paramedic Levy Fund number 39 with an additional appropriation of $2,890 from the Fire Paramedic Levy Fund number 39 and declaring an emergency to expedite the purchase of the emergency medical equipment. This is on first reading. We'll go on to second reading. Ordinance 2015-146 from the Committee of the Whole. An ordinance accepting the quotation of and authorizing the mayor to enter into contract with Fire Force, Inc. in the amount of $29,500 for the purchase of 5 self-contained breathing apparatus and 5 spare bottles for use by the fire department, taking the necessary funds from the Fire Paramedic Levy Fund number 39 and declaring an emergency to expedite the purchase of the emergency medical equipment. This is on first reading. We'll go on to second reading. Ordinance 2015-147 from the Committee of the Whole. An ordinance appealing the current section 373.10, riding on sidewalks of Aurora's codified ordinances and declaring an emergency to ensure the safety of bicyclists in the community. This is on first reading. We'll go on to second reading. Ordinance 2015-148 from Committee of the Whole. An ordinance accepting the proposal of and authorizing the mayor to enter into contract with GPD Group in the amount of $44,030 to provide engineering services for the Harmon Road Waterline Project, taking the necessary funds from the City Operation Fund number 52 and declaring an emergency in order to coordinate with the Shawnee Trail Water Line Project. This is on first reading. Need a motion to suspend.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Move to adopt.
Second.
Ms. Hawks? Citizens' comments? Yes, sir?
This is the anything, is that right?
No, no, not yet. Roll call, Ms. Hawks?
Mr. Cudley?
Yes.
Mr. Hattridge?
Yes.
Mr. Kovach?
Yes.
Ms. McDougal? Yes. Mr. Vaca?
Yes.
Mr. Wolf?
Yes.
Ms. Brenda?
Yes.
Ordinance 2015-149 from the Committee of the Whole. An ordinance amending Exhibit A to Aurora Code of Ordinances, Chapter 161, employees generally, to reflect changes in compensation for the individuals listed on the attached schedule and/or to place those newly hired individuals listed on the attached schedule an Exhibit A at the compensation specified for them, approving such compensation and declaring an emergency. We have, this is on first reading, need a motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Citizens' comments? Roll call vote, please, Ms. Hawks?
Mr. Vaca? Yes. Mr. Wolf?
Yes.
Ms. Randall?
Yes.
Mr. Hattridge?
Yes.
Mr. Kovak?
Yes.
Mr. Cudley?
Yes.
Ms. McDermott?
Yes.
Chief, can I get one of those breathing things? All right, we're gonna go to citizens' comments. Now you're on.
Richard Duncan, 1100 East Boulevard. I believe last meeting I was here and requested information on sidewalks in the Jaga Lake area. And I spoke to the mayor afterwards, and I believe she told me we do not do sidewalks. I'm a little confused because I heard her talk about sidewalks tonight. So I'd like to formally submit a letter requesting sidewalks. Who do I get this to?
Right here. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Any other comments? Yes, sir. State your name, address, please.
Don Genovese, 1121 Orchard. I've been a member of this community for some 30-plus years in the Jog Lake area, and I've seen it grow in leaps and bounds. But within those 30 years, we've gained a lot of traffic throughout the area, and this traffic has gone quite on deaf ears. Nobody seems to care. We're kind of tucked away, and nobody seems to get down in there and worry about us too much anymore. Took all the stop signs, our traffic control away. We put 8 times, 10 times the traffic through that area going from one end to the other, which we've never had before. It's not safe to walk the streets. We don't have light out there, so you can't even get on the road to go from place to place if you want to. Well, my biggest problem is right now, the stop signs that we took off. I live just over the hill on Pennsylvania. It's a blind intersection when I go to pull out of my yard. None of you live there, I live there. So I have to be the one that comes out of there, you know, on light feet. More than once, I have to pull back in the yard because somebody coming over the hill is either texting, speeding down the road, not paying attention. It's a dangerous area. I'm asking that stop sign be put back, only that we have a chance of getting out of our driveways or across the street to the mailbox. It's a bad area. We complain to Mr. Bodkin quite often. And I decided we need to do something and approach this to deal with it.
Thank you. We'll look into that.
Thank you.
Were you finished there, sir?
Yes.
Okay.
Could you tell me where the stop sign was again? Where are you talking about?
Orchard Avenue at Pennsylvania.
Thank you.
Yes.
Mr. Kovacs, members of council, my name is George Mazzaro, 186 Eldridge. I know that a lot of consultant reports are being requested in their pavement and all that, but do we have any out there for Eldridge where we had stormwater backup in a storm sewer? And that my neighbor across the street lost $35,000 worth of furniture and stuff in his basement? Why don't we have a consultant report for that? And how about Chatham? Have we had anything on Chatham? Chatham was another problem we had the last time before this July. You know, I'm having a problem understanding why we're just being piecemeal this. Okay, on leaf pickup, leaves haven't been picked up for 3 weeks. I have a stack out in front of my house, tower of my house. And the fact is, I understand your equipment went down for about a week and a half. I assume you went out and got a subcontractor, but you didn't do that. You didn't want to pay overtime when they got fixed. But there's a lot of leaves out in the city of Aurora that need to be picked up now. Not tomorrow, now. Is there anyone who reports to council publicly about the jobs in the contracts. We went out with $1 million contract here, $600,000 contract here, a sidewalk contract there. I mean, does anybody come back to council, or you do this behind closed doors? The fact is that the projects are completed and so on down the line. Is there a priority list in the city of Aurora? The answer is no. I've asked for it, but never received it. But I'm having a very, very serious problem, even with the TV expression on our TV at home. It burps, it skips, it yells, and all that. It doesn't even come across, and we can't afford to fix it. We really have some serious problems here. Thank you.
Thank you.
Deb Conti, 234 South Chillicothe Road. I just want to reiterate, I'm also a lifetime, and I was driving through Jog Lake area, especially on Orchard, and I found myself trying to stop because I'm so used to the old stop signs, and then I realized they were gone, which made it that I was an issue because I was trying to slow down and people behind me wouldn't see that. But I have to agree with him. I grew up on Moneta. I used to walk to church as a 5-year-old. My parents were not. They could see me going from Moneta over to the church over on Orchard. And I can see very much so what the gentleman's saying, that the speed in Jogga Lake, especially Orchard, East Boulevard and Moneta, I don't know so much Bryce in that, they really are. And there are a lot of blind spots that you could come flying over that hill, and people down there really don't have a chance to get out of their driveways. So I would definitely like to see some more stop signs, because really they do such a good job cutting down, not just on the safety, but also on just the overall for the people, because it really, you have so many homes in such a small area trying to use that road that people are using as speedways. Thank you.
Sir?
Lyndall Knight, I live at 1115 Orchard. Also, this morning, there's a lot of truck traffic beginning on that road. We had dump trucks running down through there this morning like crazy. I come to work at Aurora to Heinen's at 11 o'clock. I waited for three dump trucks passing me by. One popped over the hill, and Donnie's leaves came to me. He was going so fast, he picked up all the leaves and brought them to me. You know, a bunch of them, not all of them. So yes, we have a definite problem there at Pennsylvania in Orchard.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else? Council? Mr. Bakke, you're in first.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Well, first of all, I'd like to thank the two residents that showed up today. They speak the gospel. This is the truth they speak. When the stop signs were removed, I should say, I have to admit safety was compromised to some degree. However, accidents decreased by at least 80%. I think we had like 2 accidents since the stop signs had been removed. And I can give you the history on it if you want. It goes back to '78, but we won't get into that. Unfortunately, these two gentlemen live on Orchard Avenue, live on the south side of Orchard. They live on the east side of Pennsylvania. When you're coming down from Reminderville, you hit a slight rise and then it drops severely. They only live 3 doors down. The guy in the corner, he exits off of Pennsylvania Avenue, so he's okay. The next guy, I think, is in the same situation. When they're trying to get out of their driveways, these cars are coming over the hill, and by the time they get out, they have to go back in. When the 4-ways, or correction, there was a 2-way stop sign in Pennsylvania, but Pennsylvania had a stop. It made it was a 4-way, am I right? It was a 4-way stop sign, correct. And so everybody had to stop at that intersection. It gave these two gentlemen the opportunity to back out or pull out or whatever. Mr. True's not here to argue the point about ODOT and whatever's legal and what's not legal. the recommendation, maybe it's a little off whack, but I would suggest one stop sign on the eastbound side of Orchard at Pennsylvania. You can put up all the signs you want saying hidden driveway or stuff like that, and people aren't going to see it. They're still going to continue to go through, and I'm not sure if they're texting or whatever. I'm not even sure about the speeding. I know on Manita there's occasional speeder, but that goes without saying. The problem here is they do have a legitimate complaint. We brought this up several years ago when the signs were brought down. Nobody listened. And I think it's time we take a serious look at this, because these 3 homes, and maybe the 4th one, I doubt the 4th one, which is over the other side of the creek, has that problem. So we really need to look into this. And I wasn't going to touch on the trucking. Since how they brought it up, I'm going to touch on it. We have a fine police department, and you know the truckers like it because they're not pulling them over. I saw 3 or 4 of them today. I got tired of calling them in. Two weeks ago, I called it in on Thursday, and I think a Friday. And they continued until 3 o'clock. What does it take to enforce an ordinance that we have no through trucking? I said to myself, I'm done with this. I'm not calling in anymore. They get tired of hearing me up at the dispatch office. But it happens constantly. We're still getting the big trucks going to Drug Mart. We may have had a sting here earlier in the year. We got maybe 6 of them, or whatever. All well and good. But it doesn't stop. I continually tell this administration there's work being done in Reminderville. They're building, they're moving dirt, they're bringing concrete, they're bringing in houses on trailers. And I don't mean a complete house built. I mean all the lumber and everything necessary. The equipment, the cats, the whatever comes down Orchard Avenue. And occasionally on Manita. About a week ago I saw a 40-foot tractor trailer coming down. This is unreal. Again, nobody's listening to the fact that this is the hub of activity. Geauga Lake has become the hub of activity with traffic. From Twinsburg going to the shopping center, now with all those new homes going up. And I'm sorry for the people on East Boulevard. When they open up that little road back there in Harrington, you better hang on, because that's going to open up like a freeway. So I don't know what it takes. I'm not a cop. I can't stand out there and give it tickets. And I'm tired of calling them in about the trucks. And this is going to continue until we do something about this. Now, one day I observed a patrolman sitting over in the corner of Manita and Pennsylvania. Oh, that's great. The trucks are on Orchard. You know, what does it take? I feel sorry for these guys. It must be a real Russian roulette trying to get in and out of that driveway. Mr. Genovese backs in. He's taking a chance backing in, but at least when he comes out, he's facing out to sea. His wife, she drives in. She doesn't like to back in. I always back in because it's easier to see going out. I live on a slight hill too. It's not as bad as his. So what's it going to take from this administration to really take a serious look at what is happening down there? Maybe one stop sign at Pennsylvania going east. One. I'm not saying going west. You don't need it going west. Going east. You got to get these people to stop so these people can get in and out of their driveways. Thank you.
I think we'll let the law director comment on those.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'll address the stop sign issue first, because we've been dealing with it and had some requests about stop signs. As council may or may not be aware, there are laws as relates to the placement of traffic control devices. And in order for the city to remove a stop sign or place a stop sign or remove a red light or a traffic control device, it has to be warranted by scientific engineering standards. And many times you have to have some type of study done to do that. When the gentleman came up, I asked him about Orchard, where it was, and I'm going to meet with Mr. True and Mr. Checkeye and have them take a look at that intersection to determine whether or not an official study is warranted, or some type of study that can be done to determine whether it is warranted under the state law. And when I mean warranted, there are specific warrants. They call them warrants. For example, a line of sight distance is a warrant. If there is an area where a road goes up and there's not good sight, or goes down and there's not good sight, that could be a warrant. So I'm not an expert in that area, but I know that know well enough that when those requests are made, that we have to have it looked at by a traffic engineer, and I'll meet with them to do that. And we'll get back with you on what's going to happen with that. With regard to the traffic, one of the issues, the truck traffic, I know since taking over as law director and under former Chief Rewald, but really under Chief Byard, there has been stepped up enforcement in the area. And I can tell you, I know that for a fact because, as you know, I handle the criminal cases and traffic cases in Kent Municipal Court, and I've handled a handful of them where the truck drivers have come in and they've pled to the charge and they've been assessed court costs and fines. So I personally handle a number of them. I can't tell you how many. It hasn't been dozens of them, but it has been a handful of them. And I know that they've not even got to some have not even got to court because the individuals have just paid the waiver and paid the fine. So I know that there's been citations issued. I can't tell you that it's issued every time because obviously officers probably aren't there all the time. But I do know that there has been an effort, whether it's the right amount of effort or maybe whether there should be better, that's always up for debate. And I know that the chief and I talk about that area regularly. So I will just tell you, I do know that there has been some enforcement there.
Mr. Vaca.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Yes, I'm aware of the warrants and all this stuff. Ms. Hawks and I, we went through reams of education material on stop signs. In fact, I have a novel at home written up on it. The fact of the matter is, we may have cited 6 trucks. We had 6 or 7 of them today go by. So those 6 we cited were negated by the 6 or 7 that went by today. And this is continuum because of the construction going on in Reminderville. I hear when I talk to the dispatcher, well, we'll send them down there, but right now they're, I can't argue with her. I don't know what's going on. But the fact of the matter is, the trucking is happening. And I had, by the way, I forgot to mention earlier, I had another complaint, elderly woman in the 1200 block of Orchard, the same thing. The same thing these guys brought up, except she has good line of sight. Same thing, the trucks rumble by, they shake her house. Speeding. Well, again, I can't judge speeding. I'm not a speedometer or whatever you want to call it. You can pretty well tell who's going fast and who ain't. Most of the people are going around 25 to 30. Occasionally, one of those big brown box trucks likes to hit the road pretty good. But I just want to say that I think a study, and I told these gentlemen that I think we're going to have a study to get this done. And we need to have a study if that's what it takes. We need to do something to make it safer for these 2 guys, 3 people, 3 residents to get in and out of their driveway. Thank you.
Chief?
Thank you, Councilman Vaca. I know that me and you talk a lot about this, and you surely do have the best interests of your constituents at hand. We did address this earlier in the year, and frankly, it's difficult for us to be everywhere. I know you talked to Mr. Hatridge earlier about this, and one of the things that I want to pass on sometimes, that if the residents see a name on the side of one of these trucks, and they can pass that on to me, either by phone call or email, I'll go to that company directly and put them on notice, so to speak. I know we addressed it and cited a number of them earlier in the year, which caused quite the uproar. I received a lot of phone calls from that because, frankly, as you know, that area up there is landlocked. and they can't get in and out of Reminderville, but frankly, that's really not our problem. I talked to the surrounding chiefs, and there is one city that's considering opening it up to allow trucks in to prevent Reminderville from being landlocked from no trucks. But if I can just emphasize that if you do see that, I mean, obviously call. We can't be everywhere all the time, but if you can get a name off of the side of the truck, you know, I'll personally make that call, and I've done it a few times already this year, and you know, gotten a lot of resistance. And as a lot of directors said, some of them have indicated that they're going to fight it in court. Where it'll go, I don't know, but I can definitely put some guys up there and start citing them again, because it did reduce drastically after we cited a lot of those truckers, but they've obviously gotten comfortable again, and it's increased, so you know, we can address it again and go from there.
Thank you. Ms. McDougal.
Thank you, Mr. President. First, I'd like to congratulate Councilman Hatridge and Kovach on their victories. Welcome back. Second, happy Thanksgiving to everyone. And I just have something I'd like to be thankful for, and that was the response we had for our senior leaf raking event. We raked 52 yards, and even Councilman Wolf was out there with his blower, and we had over 120 participants. So, and it just amazes me how great a community we have, and how youngsters and those not so young are willing to help out those in need. And I just, from the bottom of my heart, would like to thank you.
Mr. Hatridge.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to address this to the chief, Byard. First of all, I want to give you a compliment. I want to thank you for all your patrols during Halloween. You moved fast, and we had a beautiful night. I know you're responsible for the weather too, Chief, so now I was walking the streets during my campaign. I got 3 or 4 complaints about the cars not stopping in the pedestrian walkway at Aurora Hudson and Greenman Way,
Where the school's connected.
yeah, right. And there are signs showing crosswalk and the children. It doesn't say stop for pedestrians in the crosswalk. I don't know what you can do. I know about 3 weeks ago or 4 weeks ago, there was a car parked by the transformer during the school hours. And the complaints I got, Chief, was the children taking their bicycles to school and at home. I mean, after school. So I just want to bring that to your attention.
Yes, to the councilman, it is, you know, it's difficult for us to, obviously, when these people that commit these infractions don't just do it in Aurora, they do it everywhere generally. And when they see the police car, of course, they're perfect drivers. So kind of like I had mentioned to Mr. Vaca, if somebody is behind those people, and get the license plate number and either send me an email or call me, because sometimes, and we've done this in the neighborhoods a lot too, it's usually the same person speeding up and down the residential street. Call us and we can pay them a personal visit, and sometimes that gets the point across a lot more than writing a traffic citation, you know, if we can't catch up to them, obviously. But in that case, I'm sure the same people travel through that same area every day, and it's probably the same people that are violating that law every day and doing the same infractions everywhere they go. But we will put one of the school resource officers out there, and that's probably who you saw out there before. But of course, when they see the black and white car sitting there, everybody's 25 miles per hour and abiding by all the laws. So if they get a license plate number, which they probably have to stop at the light at 43 if they're heading that direction, or at the stop sign heading the other direction, just jot down the license plate number and either send me an email or call my office, and we'll just assign somebody to call them or pay them a visit, and usually that gets the message.
It does. Thank you, Chief. Just a couple of things. On ordinance 2015-144, one of the things we discussed about this at the last meeting, I think it was at the committee of the whole, is that if we do need more information, we can assign an ad hoc committee. I think that any councilman or council person has an opportunity at that time to say, hey, we want more information. Can we, in fact, put together an ad hoc committee and go over all this stuff? So that's another way we can get more input to the citizens and more input to us if in fact we need more information. So that's not just a blind alley there either, okay? The other thing I'd like to do is to thank the mayor, Nicole Vosh, John Covey, Jim Vaca, and Amy McDougal. They were the 4 council people that were able to get off work and make it to the Aurora Veterans Memorial ceremonies. I told George Mazzaro a few days before that service was formed that it's usually raining, cold, and miserable. I said, but I have a feeling this is going to be good weather. So I brought the good weather, not you, Chief. I took care of that myself. So, yeah. So anyway, I just wanted to thank you guys for showing up, and thank all the citizens for showing up. So, thank you very much. That's it.
Mr. Wolf.
Thank you, Mr. President. I would just ask the law director, could we include, if we're going to do any sort of study, that Harrington Way in Pennsylvania, I think it was Mr. Vaca mentioned, in addition to that stop sign? If we're going to look at something, I mean, I'd like us to look at the whole impact.
Mr. President, Mr. Wolf, won't really be my decision as to what we look at. I'm going to talk with Mr. True and Mr. Checkeye and get their recommendations, since they're the experts in that area, but I will bring this to them and make sure we meet on it in the next week.
Thank you. And then I'd just like to wish everybody happy Thanksgiving.
Ms. Grandel.
Thank you.
Grandel.
Thank you very much. I just wanted to wish everyone a very happy Thanksgiving. Have a good night.
Okay, it's my turn now. Mr. Cutler.
Sure.
Okay, I just want to thank everyone that supported me in the election, and I promise to keep working hard with my fellow colleagues here, trying to keep this city the best city around. I met so many great people, and we do have a great city. Amy said we have tremendous amount of talent in this city, and I really appreciate serving the city and working for them. Thank you. Have a great Thanksgiving. Motion?
Motion to adjourn. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Roll call vote, please.
Too late, you already.
All right, it's Christmas or it's Thanksgiving. Yeah, whatever.